Greetings, my friends, and welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy and partner Alex over in Germany. And I think this is going to be episode 10. So we've been pretty hard at work making sure that we're being consistent, getting you guys some solid content and communicating, what our vision is and how we feel like we can impact the marketplace. And today we're going to do that to a little bit higher degree. We're going to talk a little bit about where we see Goodfellas going based on a question that Alex posed or that he saw on the internet earlier. We'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's related to the Artist Incubator, but of course, at the top of the hour, we've got to jump into some of the price action in the marketplace. I know Bitcoin's going crazy right now. Of course, some of the altcoins are following. I think Dogecoin was up as well, pretty big. So, Alex, what are you seeing in the market from your side of the world, my friend?
Yeah, all green. It feels like it's always like whenever I start talking on the podcast on Spaces, I tell people that the markets are green. So yeah, it's definitely a good a good thing.
Just need to keep the
Um,
podcast going 24, huh?
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because this morning I received a voicemail from my brother, who's actually a part of our community as well, and who listened to the space last time we were live. Um, and he made like a voicemail. Hey, okay, I'm gonna call it now. All time high today. And I was like, oh, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, I just mentioned it in the talk we had prior to the podcast that this might be the last episode we have. Before the new Bitcoin all-time high.
Yeah, that's highly probable. I mean, I think there's so much excitement around it, and with institutional money coming on board, and then you said something like about a wallet that you saw that was buying Bitcoins by the hundred. I mean, that's crazy. I think I saw an article where more and more Bitcoin has been taken off exchanges, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon because not only do we have the halving coming up where the daily supply of Bitcoin right now is roughly increasing by about 900 Bitcoin per day. That's going to get cut to 450 at the next halving. And in addition to that, we've had more and more Bitcoin being pulled from exchanges. So what all this adds up to is less Bitcoin in circulation, less Bitcoin available to buy. And of course, with the institutional money now, the demand is higher. You have retail demand higher. I went to a convenience store yesterday. I was working in a rental property and we stopped in to grab some food. And there was a Bitcoin ATM machine in this convenience store in the middle of nowhere. So, it's definitely catching on.
Yeah, and it's starting right now because like you mentioned retail coming in and pretty good indicators for that are always well have always been like the trends, like the Google trends, YouTube, and are people like how is this search volume? Do people talk about it? Like, we are all in our crypto bubble, so we feel like everyone is talking about crypto. But when we are in the real world, we see that like that the like people do not talk about it that much right now, and it's still not. But if that happens and people actually remember how strong Bitcoin is, and I feel like there will be a lot of news about it, especially when it reaches a new all-time high in the media and in the mainstream media especially. And yeah, like all the retail investors and institutional investors who actually caused Bitcoin having his all-time high last time are not even in yet, and that's like crazy, if you remember that. um but you mentioned it, like we are also seeing a lot of meme coins increasing, and this is like, I still refuse to buy meme coins, but whenever I see the charts and I see like Doge and Shiba Inu and yeah, what else do we have? We have some dog with a head, and I don't know what else. It's crazy. Like making like 3 to 4x in a week is definitely. You feel like why do people do that? But yeah, it's gambling, and people love that, and people love like when something like rises quick, and yeah, it's part of crypto, and we have to accept that.
Definitely, yeah. Bonk was at the top of the chart this earlier today or today right now. I mean, up 55% in the last, what is this, 24-hour chart, I think. I mean, these are crazy numbers, numbers you don't see in a lot of markets. in different types of markets, whether it's, traditional stocks and bonds or real estate or what have you. It's just unheard of to see this unless you're in, small companies, penny stocks, that sort of thing. And so, there is that excitement that comes with the ability to potentially gamble and, double your money or make 50% in an afternoon or what have you. I think the problem I see is just no restraint, because so many people come in and they'll make some quick money and then they'll turn around and lose it by staying with this coin that's really going nowhere. And it's sad to see, because you could take those winnings and then put it into something that's going to be stable, like a Bitcoin or an ETH or even a Solana to a degree, something much more stable than a lot of these smaller tokens. But people the beauty of crypto is that it's the Wild West right now, and the people have this ability to teach themselves by making bad decisions. So hopefully they learn, and they can pull their winnings in and then multiply their winnings in a more secure way. But over time, man, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, because, as you said, where retail investors go is really where the markets follow. And it seems we're on the cusp of that happening, whether it's, like I said, the Bitcoin ATM machines or the ETFs that have, just insane volume, or whether it's just buying Bitcoin directly, which I think right now Bitcoin is the most successful asset in world history. So, I mean, we have some tremendous opportunity despite some of the headwinds that, people are facing at different economic levels. There is still opportunity. And I think that's the story here, right? There's always opportunity mixed in with the difficulty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's actually pretty interesting that I have actually a pretty weird algorithm on X right now, but currently it's showing me a lot of historic Bitcoin videos, and yeah, I think Watcha Guru today posted a video, or yesterday, I don't know, posted a video of a Bitcoin purchase back in, I think it was 2012 or 13, somewhere around then. And yeah, it actually showed that you could buy Bitcoin using PayPal for like 30 cents a Bitcoin. And yeah, whenever you watch it, you feel like, why didn't, like, it's actually like, it doesn't make sense to think that way, but
Yeah.
you feel like, why was there no situation that like made me buy Bitcoin back then,
Yeah.
and keep it? Like, that's like the other thing, if you actually bought for investing, you probably would have sold way before. But why didn't I buy it, like, forgot about it, and then remembered it like 8 years later?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, right, when you think about it, because, I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but I was listening to an interview with Michael Saylor, and he was talking about Bitcoin ownership. And obviously, Saylor is a tremendous Bitcoin proponent, probably one of the biggest names in the traditional world, who've been supporting Bitcoin, because he basically put his entire billion-dollar company behind Bitcoin. So at the end of the day, he owns MicroStrategy, and they hold something like 190,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and with something like an average cost of around, I think it was like 50,000 per token. So they've got 6 billion invested, and they're sitting on 10 billion. So they've turned 6 billion into 10 billion just in the last few years, which is, unheard of in the traditional business world. But he was in an interview when he was talking about Bitcoin ownership. And I think a lot of people forget that Bitcoin is not the base unit of the Bitcoin blockchain. The Satoshi is, and every Bitcoin is comprised of 100 million Satoshis. So if you're holding a ordinal, for example, you own a certain number of Satoshis that are tied to that ordinal, blah, blah, blah. But he was making the point that at some point, when Bitcoin becomes self-evident that you should have bought it, or that, it's a quality asset to own, that owning a Bitcoin for most people will be like owning a skyscraper, that so few people will have that ability at that point, and that, you shouldn't waste time, that you should start, picking up some of that token now. And so when I heard that interview a couple of years ago, that's when I really started buying Bitcoin heavily, because he made an engineering case, not an I believe in this case, but he just made an engineering case that Bitcoin is the best money, and it made a lot of sense. So fortunately, I bought it all the way down from its previous high, and bought it at the bottom quite a bit, and then bought it as it started to creep back up, and I was able to get, a couple Bitcoin under my belt. But, unfortunately, for me, like, I knew about Bitcoin earlier, and that was me. And I held, I think, like four or five Bitcoin back in the early days, and I ended up selling them when I thought that it was a huge gain. I took like 10 grand off the table. I thought I was rich, kind of a thing. But and like you said, that was a smart thing to do then. But now looking at it and looking at where it's going, obviously, if I could travel back in time, I would have held them. But I don't regret, taking those gains, and I don't regret paying the price to get in where I got in, because I had to learn. Like, I had to learn about economics, and I had to learn why Bitcoin was going to be what it was. So it is what it is, and hopefully people can at least grab one before they're all snapped up.
Yeah, man, and if you consider where it all came from, because like I told you, I have a lot of historic videos of Bitcoin in my Twitter timeline, and then whenever I see like all these old board posts from Satoshi, like talking about Bitcoin, how he invented it, and what he wants to do with it, and everything, it's actually like so crazy. I mean, he probably would have never thought that he would have such an impact on the economy, on the whole world. Um, but I wonder if it ever, like, if he ever shows up and is like, hey man, it was me, or if he's maybe dead
Yeah.
already, or if it's like, I don't know. Do you think we will find out?
I have no idea, honestly. I don't think Satoshi was a person. In my personal, my personal opinion is that Satoshi was a group of people working together to create this, because, blockchain had its origins in other forms of digital cash. And people like Nick Szabo, for example, were involved in that. There were some pretty big names from the cryptographic world that were involved in it, and so I think it's likely that it was a group of people, not one person. But I think the cool thing about Satoshi is that whoever he, she, or they were, they created this thing, and then they unleashed it on the market, and then they disappeared. It's sort of like this idea of immaculate conception. It's almost like it was discovered by people, and even though it was created by someone, it's almost like it was discovered, and now the person who created it disappeared, and we have no knowledge of this person, or no real knowledge of this person, just a bunch of speculation. And I think that's probably the best gift they could have given the market, because when you look at the rest of the tokens and coins that have cropped up, most of them have some sort of foundation backing them. Most of them had pre-mines. Most of them had, some form of investment. And like, the best money was made before those tokens ever went public. So at the end of the day, I think the fairness with which Bitcoin was created and released on the marketplace is probably its greatest gift. That, and the fact of its simplicity. And then all the others are just kind of copying that to some degree, or using the technology to do something different. To be, like Ethereum's kind of like the world computer, and Solana's doing a lot of stuff in the tech world and in the mobile world. So we're getting this sort of chain specialization thing, but all the people who created those chains are still around. They're not really a mystery, and they're not really, they weren't really like fair games, because like, even Solana, for example, like, if you look at the pre-mines and the people who had money in Solana before it ever, was available to the public, it's insane. Like, A16Z was a huge investor, and they took out, multiple millions and millions and millions of dollars from just dumping this stuff on the public, right? And that's kind of the difference. Like, Bitcoin wasn't really dumped on the public; it was adopted by the public. And I think that's what separates it from, aside from its simplicity and use case, that's what separates it from the others.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, regarding the Satoshi thing, one last thing which is pretty interesting is that people even started analyzing the posts that he made and tried to find little hints about his personality and who he is, because like they even checked sentences like word by word and checked like, hey, does he say, because I think one system was like something, one sentence was like he talking about his system, like he was like, I think he wrote, my system is designed to blah blah blah. So basically he wasn't talking about him as we, like our system, but as mine. And that's like little things that people take and um, feel like they can conclude that he is one person, but then there is like another sentence that gives the idea that there are more than one, that there's more than one guy involved. So yeah, in the end we will never find out, but the mystery around it is, I think it's definitely good. Like you mentioned, I think we talked about it on in the art world about Banksy, who's like nobody really knows who he is, and it actually gives it a positive thing, you know. Like in my imagination, Satoshi is a really cool guy. You know, he like the anonymous hackers, you know, the mask they wear. That type of guy is Satoshi in my imagination, and I
Hmm.
just want to feel like that. You know, if you look at Vitalik, for example, like let's be honest, like he's a little weird. He has that kind of genius attitude because sometimes behaves a little like, yeah, like antisocial. But yeah, then you see like videos of Vitalik like in the public, like behaving weird towards women, like having a boner on a picture and stuff. And yeah, you know, I'll stick to Satoshi. He's my number one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you bring up Vitalik because yeah, he is kind of a strange bird for sure, and he just has a totally different vibe, and I think part of that, the whole anonymity thing, is because of that. Like when you when you think of something like Satoshi or someone or some group or some person, like a Satoshi, you can assign whatever values to that person that you want to because you don't know who it is or who it was. You can just sort of make up what you want to be. They can be your little messiah right in your head, like whatever you want to think about them. But when you see someone in the real world, all of those visions and machinations are gone. They are who they are. And that's kind of like what you're talking about with Vitalik. Like he can't be someone other than who he is. And so if you don't like Vitalik for whatever reason, maybe you don't like Ethereum. But I think a lot of people adopted those sort of pseudonymous, anonymous ways of being online because, so part of it is like hiding who you really are because you don't really want people to know who you are. And there's a benefit to that if you're trying to sell art or trying to create something because you can let people make up their own minds about who you are.
Yeah, and I feel like we have seen it a lot of times, like even in the world of music or like even on YouTube and stuff, you see a lot of people who never showed themselves, and once they expose themselves, people often feel like okay, the magic is somehow gone now. Like
Yep.
I don't know, and you explained it pretty good that yeah, something is lost when people show themselves, and you have a different imagination of how he is or how he was supposed to be. So yeah, in the end, let's hope for Satoshi to never show up. That's the conclusion here.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I think him, like I said, him disappearing, I think was the best thing he possibly could have done, and it's just cool to have this. It's cool to be alive at this time period, right? I mean, thinking back through history, and as bad as people like to, run down the way things are. I mean, we live in the best time in human history. We have the most advantages. We have the ability to live one of the easiest lives. We have the ability to sort of escape, state control with crypto. We've got the world becoming more of a, or at least the potential for something like if Bitcoin succeeds, we have the potential for the world to become a more peaceful and prosperous place. And that's, I think, what everyone in crypto originally, that was their goal. It's like, hey, leave me alone. I want to live in peace. I want to have my life. I want to live my life the way I want to live it. And crypto is enabling that, or was enabling that initially for a lot of folks who thought that way. And, with it becoming more mainstream, we run the risk of losing that. But at the same time, if something like Bitcoin can survive and thrive and escape government control, largely not be stoppable, I think Bitcoin right now is already running on satellites. So I think ultimately Bitcoin will probably follow us to Mars, along with probably Ethereum. I think Ethereum's also running on satellites. And, it'll probably be the money that we transact with, in the future, or at least the value, the way we exchange value. And maybe we do a level 2 or level 3 on top of it to exchange like small transactions like Lightning or something like that. But the base value chain is going to follow us, I think, from here on out, unless and until we find something better. And so far, that has yet to be invented. So yeah, I'm with you, man. It's kind of cool to see. It's a cool time to be alive. And with that said, talking a little bit about time, let's jump into one of the questions that you posed when we were talking offline. And one of the things we wanted to get into with our project today and with, sort of NFT projects in general is, how do you gauge them? How do you value them? How do you take a hard look at them and see, where they're going to go? And the traditional route has always been to look at the quote unquote roadmap. And of course, you know as well as I do that the roadmap is, quote, subject to change, end quote, at a moment's notice. So most of them are basically useless. And the question you posed was, where do you see your project in 5 to 10 years? And I think this is probably one of the most valuable questions a buyer can ask of any NFT project, right? Where do you see your project in 5 to 10 years? I think largely because most people are thinking in 5 to 10 weeks, or maybe if you're lucky, 5 to 10 months, but 5 to 10 years is almost unheard of in this market because of the speed at which things happen. So, where did you, what was the inspiration for bringing this question up today? And then we'll dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned actually all the important things already. I read that comment on X. Someone was asking that in the comments of a project that is actually not too big yet, but I'm not mentioning the name because like the answer was actually ridiculous. Um, but yeah, that was the basic question. Like, where do you see your project in 5 to 10 years? And it's actually pretty funny because when I read that, and with us having the Goodfellas NFT, I have a pretty clear imagination of where we want to be and where I hope us to be in 5 to 10 years, because we've always said the ultimate goal in the end is going to be the marketplace. And with that, we will have a big licensing business that gives like many communities the chance to use our art, hold the IP, be able to take advantage of that, profit of that. Like our holders will profit from that, and like one big thing which is like building up right now, and I think this is going to be massive in the future, is the artist incubator. I think people are still like underestimating it, but I feel like the idea of having like the biggest art gallery, because we've always said that we are a like art first project, and to have like the biggest art gallery like from artists all around the world, like combined in one big collection, like we have never had that before. And I feel like in my imagination I'm scrolling through that collection and see people like, hey, do you have the piece from, I don't know, Dave XXX, like number 10? And I want like I'm collecting all number 8s of that collection, like something like that. And then I have a pretty clear like a pretty clear picture in my mind of how people are going to use that collection, and especially the people who love the art. um, and this is going to be a very very cool thing in the future. And I feel like once artists like see what we do, they will want to be part of that, um, yeah. But before I go crazy here, like what do you feel about that? Like what are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were, I mean, in terms of like what we're creating, or like or the NFT market as a whole. Like, which one are you referring to?
What we're creating.
Yeah, with what we're creating, I think it's well overdue. And I think part of the impetus for creating the project was because we got screwed by other people. Really, like, I mean, there's massive investment that we have, and then all of a sudden someone says, okay, well, I'm just going to screw you because I'm gonna not follow through. I'm not going to keep my word. I'm just going to quit. I'm going to walk away because I'm embarrassed, or whatever the thing is, right? There's all these reasons that people walk away from the project. And so as a holder, I'm sitting here going, who the fuck are these people? Like, who do you think you are? You're going to come into the marketplace and you're going to make promises or tell people that you're going to, put yourself out there and do great things. And then you wake up one day and you don't feel like it. So you're like, well, I don't feel like it today, so I'm just going to disappear. I mean, who does that, right? Like, what kind of person does that? So the big thing for me was, okay, well, we need good people in the marketplace. Hence the name Goodfellas. Like, it's mafia themed and it's mafia related, but ultimately what we're doing is trying to literally bring good people together so that they can share in this wonderful thing that we have available to us called the crypto market and the NFT world, right? But and then not have to worry that every day they're going to get screwed, or every day someone's going to take advantage of them. Like my greatest, I think one of the greatest successes is that when people show up to your Discord server, they're not there to see if you're still there, like they're there to see, okay, what's the announcements today? Do I need to be here? Okay, then I'm gone. I'm going to go actually live my life today, rather than constantly hanging out, constantly looking, watching, waiting, constantly worried if something's going to screw you. So that was like my first thought around the creation of the project. Like I want people to feel solidly about the fact that, hey, you're here, you're in good hands, and we're not going to, break our word or screw you. We're going to give you every possible ounce of energy that we can muster, and we're going to do our level best to make this thing a success, right? So that was number one. But then number two, when you look at the marketplace, to me, the highest and best use of blockchain is tracking. It is provenance. It is getting royalties to proper artists. It is, licensing to proper individuals. And how do we know who? Well, everything's tracked publicly online. There's no escaping that. So it's I want good people, and then I want to take care of people. Okay, so let's find the good people, and now let's take care of them. Let's make sure the artists are getting their royalties. Let's make sure the users have the rights to the pieces that they purchased, rather than having to worry about it and worry if the artist is going to come after them if they remint because the project failed or what have you. No, no, no. If you buy it, it's yours. Like, we've got the paperwork. We are extending that courtesy to you, and you don't have to worry, right? So again, good people, let's take care of good people. And then lastly, let's expand, so let's bring more and more people into that circle, but let's do it selectively. So we're not looking to, run some crazy little Twitter campaign where we incentivize people to do some free shit thing and then show up and then be a nothing until you get your free, Cracker Jack box bonus and then go away. Like, that's not what we want. We want people who are genuinely invested and people who care. So that means that we can't do, okay, well, I'm going to do this freebie thing for you because you shared this tweet, or because you tagged 5 friends, or whatever the thing is. Like, if we're doing a good job, people will tell other people. And that's how that works in reality. So it's also about escaping the fakeness of the market, which is the fake hype, the fake interest. When you're incentivizing people to be active in Discord, and you're incentivizing people to be active on Twitter, I mean, there's nothing technically wrong with that, but you have to separate what's real from what isn't. Is someone doing that because they actually want to see you succeed, or is someone doing that because you're offering some reward? There's two very different mindsets there. And so ultimately, we're going to get to more and more like paid exposure. But for now, it's just about identifying who those good people are. And then, of course, the expansion, bringing more artists in, making proper agreements with the artists, making sure that they're taken care of, making sure that their artwork is honored. I sent royalty payments off to our artist this morning, and, she didn't have to beg. It's just like, hey, are they ready? Yep, here you go. There you go, right? And how many artists have we spoken to where they did a complete collection and never got paid? That's basically every collection that we've picked up so far. The artist has gotten screwed in some way, shape, or form. So we want to make sure that the artists, in addition to our population, are telling other artists, hey, these guys treat you well. You don't have to beg for your money. They hardcored your wallet into the metadata, so you're going to get your royalties. You don't have to worry about it, right? And just continue to do good things that way and expand through real live word of mouth from people who care. And of course, ultimately that accumulates over a period of years into an ever expanding gallery. And like you talked about, people wanting to collect certain numbers or certain pieces or certain artists, or maybe the signed piece or this, that, the other thing, like all those different bits and pieces are available there. And then when we talk about, the size of the marketplace, whether we can, purchase pieces or trade pieces with Sol, well, we can also purchase pieces or trade pieces with our token, AU. Like, the bosses are going to be able to earn the most AU and have the biggest claim to all of those pieces and have the most advantages. I mean, to me, I think this is it's like the perfect setup for a lifelong project that you and I can continue to formalize and make sure that, even after we're dead and gone, that someone is running this project and people are benefiting.
So yeah, you talked a lot about the like how there are still a lot of NFT projects out there who do the same old shit. But as we look, like take a look into the future, 5 to 10 years, and we've always said that the market is like maturing. And do you think the market will have changed in 5 years? Like, do you think there's so much quality in here that there is no chance for the good old Solana shitty way?
I think that the chance for that exists always, and I think until can be held accountable, that will always exist. You know, just like in the real world, if someone has the ability to screw someone, you know, unfortunately, there's that natural human desire to get over on other people in some situations. So I don't think we're ever going to get rid of bad actors, but I do think it slows down tremendously. And above and beyond that, I think it has to change because at the end of the day, the people who are in the marketplace now, being early adopters primarily and being developers, developing for one another secondarily, these people would ultimately just get tired of being screwed left and right, and they would just literally stop participating in the market. So, unless the market matures, you don't bring in new people who feel like they can be a participant who's going to be taken good care of, and you continue to lose the existing people, then your reputation just becomes one of, well, you got to stay away from that mess. It's just garbage. It's full of crappy people. It's full of just, people trying to screw you. And that's the thing that you and I and Goodfellas is really railing against. Like, if we got right down to it, it's like, hey, if you're a new person coming to the market, you want to find Goodfellas. Like, you want to be a part of this project because A, it's solid, and B, there's an actual business plan, and C, we're not anonymous and running from you. Like, we're here to help you get what you want. And, as we go forward, if the market doesn't change, like if we continue with the bad actors and we continue with the people who have no real plan or no real interest other than just getting a quick cash grab and running off, then the market completely fails and collapses. So what I see happening is as more people come in, as exchanges get smarter and regulation comes on board, you have less and less of the bad actors because it becomes harder to get away with doing bad things. And then the average person can feel a little bit more confident when they come in and they start understanding, okay, well, holding this NFT grants me a membership into a specific club or a ticket to a specific show or part of a collection that I really love, and they don't have to worry. That's really, I think, the only two possibilities. Either we get good people going and the market expands and draws new eyeballs, or we keep the same, which is kind of my fear and one of the reasons that we exist, and the market folds entirely. So I see those are the only two possibilities.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you already mentioned it that there are a lot of early adopters in here right now, and in addition to that, most of them are very, very young. So I feel like the question is, how is the next, let's call it NFT bull run? Um, what does it do to the market? Because in the end, the question is, will we get like more mature people in here, maybe some older people? Will there be some like easier access to NFTs for people who are not familiar with like blockchain and all that stuff? Because like for a lot of people it's still like there's one project that I joined, and I read on, like, it's a crypto project, not totally not NFT related.
Mm-hmm.
And I just checked the Telegram, and there was like one guy saying that that he is buying all his tokens on an exchange, and on a centralized exchange. And he was like, yeah, I just want to buy my tokens here because it's easy, and I do not use dexes because like I have no idea of wallets and how to send this stuff and everything. And there are people out there who are interested but who are not familiar with using blockchains. So yeah, I think the last time I also already mentioned that I feel like there needs to be some kind of application that allows you to use NFTs, like in the real world, in some kind of easy, accurate way for everyone. No?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you 100%. I think that's a huge barrier to entry for most people. When I think about people who are older than me, like I'm Gen X, when I think of people who are older than me, I mean, there's no chance that these people are going to, grab a smartphone and start learning about wallets and blockchains. They just don't care, Plus, they already have all the wealth in the world anyway, so they don't need to worry about it. They're set. But people, even younger people coming up, what I see a huge barrier to entry being is exactly that. And people think blockchain is some special, magical thing. And the reality is blockchain is just literally, it's just a big spreadsheet. That's all it is. You've got an entry on top of an entry on top of an entry, and we're just tracking forward and tracking backwards. That's all we're doing. So, like for example, when I'm doing the artwork drops and I'm creating the metadata, I'm literally turning the JSON files into an Excel spreadsheet and then flipping them back into JSON files. It's literally that simple. And so if we get to the point where we have so much complexity, like right now, where it's difficult and there's a barrier after barrier after barrier, then yeah, we prevent new people from joining us from all demographics, from all generations, from all parts of the world, because the investment and the learning curve is so steep. But as we get closer and closer to tools that actually sort of separate the end user from the technology and they don't really need to worry about it, then we get what you're talking about, where we have more and more people walking away from, those centralized exchanges. But right now, if I'm talking to a new person, here in the States, Coinbase is the biggest exchange, and they actually sell insurance, so like you could pay, they have a paid service where they'll insure your assets. Like if I'm a traditional guy coming from a traditional world and I want to make sure I'm okay, I'm just going to say, hey man, don't worry about wallets and dexes and all this crap. Just set up an account with Coinbase and go buy through Coinbase. And if you're really worried about it, you can get their paid version, and then all of your assets are covered, kind of a thing. And that makes a lot of sense because it's analogous to the real world, where if they walk into a bank and they deposit funds, then the bank has FDIC insurance by default. And so they feel safer. Whether they're safer or not, they feel that way. And that's really what you want to get people to. But ultimately, all the technology will, obfuscate all of the complexity, and it won't be an issue. So I feel like the closer we get to that, the closer we get to, mass adoption and the necessity for more tools, then the more incentive you have for developers to develop for the marketplace rather than for one another, and you get better apps. I mean, I think Phantom is a great wallet. I think it continues to get better and better and better. Xverse is a great wallet for Bitcoin. It continues to get better and better and better. And I don't really care how it works, as long as it works, but we're not there yet, right? We're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, you mentioned it. You as a part of the Gen X, right?
Yep.
Um, I think if I look at, like here in Germany, in my perception at least, I wouldn't know anyone from Gen X who would have any idea of blockchains. Like there are definitely some people, but like from what I see, I don't know anyone like over, I don't know, 50, 60, something like that, who has an idea of what the blockchain is and how it works.
Mm.
So like even I am probably considered a millennial, like Gen Y. Um, but I definitely do see a lot of younger guys, like from I don't even know, how is the generation after that called? Is it Gen,
The
what's next? I don't know, Gen A.
iGen, iGen. These are the people
Okay.
who are internet native.
Okay, perfect. So these guys are like the majority in the NFT world. Like I think we spoke about that last time when we talked about that guy who quit his project, and what was it, teddy bears or something like that.
Yeah.
And he yeah, and he said like, hey, I'm in my early 20s, like most um NFT guys who start a project, and like that seemed to be his excuse, his apology for like just quitting and leaving his people behind. And yeah, you just said it pretty well. Like, we either see like the market maturing, or we see it stay like that, and yeah, slowly die. But yeah, we just keep working. We just keep trying to get the good people, the good fellas. I like that you mentioned the name and that send consents again, because I remember that when that name, I'm not sure if you still remember how we got to that name, but I think, and I'm not sure if I got it right, but I think that some guy in the Discord made the suggestion and said like, "Hey, let's call us Goodfellas." Ha ha ha! But it was some kind of ironic in there, and then we felt like, "Hey, that's actually a pretty good name." And yeah, then we had some other names on the paper which were quite bad. Um, but yeah, I think we definitely made the right choice, and I'm very curious to see where markets take us in the future.
Definitely. I mean, I think the way we've set this up and the way we structured it, I mean, we can literally grow forever. And this is one of the things that we really haven't had a chance to communicate to the population and our people very well yet. I mean, we're just starting getting into the content creation game with the podcasts and spaces and all the rest of it. And of course, the market is evolving every single day. But when you have open-ended collections like what we have two open-ended collections, one with the Artist Incubator, one with the 21s, which is artwork in our style. And then we've got a main collection that is still minting. We'll have the next family, the next batch drop in the next, probably in the next 5 or 6 weeks. And, when you have the ability to earn in a token and then participate in a gallery that can grow indefinitely forever, then you create infinite games. And these are the games that are the most fun to play, right? Like there's, I think a lot of people forget this, like the goal of being in business is not to make money, but the goal of being business is to stay in business. Just like the goal of being married is not to get married, the goal is to stay married, right? The goal to get fit is not to get fit, but to stay fit, right? And so, like, inside the context of the project and the business that we're creating, the goal isn't to create the business, the goal is to keep the business going forever. And the infinite games are the fun games. And so when we have people, collecting, you get to play an infinite game right alongside us as creators. We're all creators. We're co-creators in this. And when you think about the joy that comes from the acquisition, the hunt, the particular artists that you love, the particular pieces that you love, and building a portfolio that can grow with you as you grow as a person. I mean, there's a lot of joy that comes from that, and I'm excited to continue to bring that to market. And then, of course, work with more people and work with different artists and continue to acquire collections and all the rest of it. That's just kind of icing on the cake. But I mean, I think playing the infinite game is something that the NFT market doesn't really understand yet, because of the fact that so much of it is like, let's see if we can get a big drop, let's see if we can get a big cash infusion, and then we'll pretend we're going to do something for about 6 months and then we'll disappear. I mean, as long as people get away with that model, and as long as people can sort of skirt any form of responsibility, that will exist to some degree. But it's a take, right? Like, it's a huge take on the marketplace, and like the best relationships are win-win. So like when we create something, we want our holders to win, we want the artists to win, we want to win as founders. The best relationships are win-win-win, not lose. And unfortunately, with some of the youth in the marketplace and some of the outlooks, we have this just give me now and hope for the best. And then if I screw up, then I'm just going to walk away mentality. This is just a massive take. It's a massive, let me win while you lose. And that's never going to be successful. So the marketplace has to go win-win. It has to get to the point where, like, I don't know, pick one of the biggest companies in the world, like Apple, right? Like, they drop a phone, they win because they sell the phone. You win because you like the phone and you love the phone and it holds all your songs or whatever. It doesn't matter what the thing is, but in the form of a transaction, both sides of the transaction have to feel like they won. And the biggest sense that I get from the old way of doing things in the Solana network specifically, but I guess it's pretty true of all chains, is it's more, I'm going to win and maybe you'll win, but chances are you're really going to lose. And that's got to change, man. If it doesn't, like I said, like the market folds. And so I think that
Right.
what we're really after here is just creating win-win relationships and really loving people.
Yeah, loved what you said. Like the goal is not to start the business, but to like to keep it, to run it, and everything. Gotta steal that one for the Twitter post tomorrow. Um, but yeah, talking about tomorrow, talking about the next week, we got another thing coming up on Wednesday. Actually, it's the third piece of our, yeah, I think of our little artist incubator, the little um, project that we started a couple of weeks ago and is a great success until now. So I checked the piece that is going to drop on Wednesday today, on Wednesday again, and I gotta say it's actually in my top two. So I'm really looking forward for this to this one, and I'm not sure. Like I think Maria asked, "Did you see that? If her people needs to submit their wallets?" But yeah, that's actually not that doesn't matter right now. Um, but yeah, looking forward to that. How do you like that piece?
I mean, I like all the pieces. My favorite piece hasn't come up yet. I have two favorites. This one is up there, but there's one that's I think it's just a very beautiful piece. I can't really describe it without giving too much away, but I'll definitely let everybody know which one it is when it comes due. But yeah, the pieces are all fantastically done. I love the fact that they're hand drawn. And I mean, to the point of wallets, like, yeah, if you're holding one right now, I've got your wallet, so you don't have to worry about that. If you're one of, Maria's chosen few and you're listening to this, make sure that I do have your wallet, because normally only our bosses can mint these pieces alongside the artist's like hand-picked group, right? So that's the way that works. And if you're uncertain or you don't have one of the previous pieces, definitely reach out to myself or Maria and just drop us a line, let us know to add your wallet. But yeah, the pieces, I think the way that they're structured and ordered, my personal opinion, they get better and better and better all the way through. And one of the things I'm super stoked about is we're going to be able to do a collaboration with Maria. Excuse me. We're going to actually do a collab, and anyone who's holding all 7 pieces is going to have this crazy bonus piece coming your way. It's going to be super cool. And it's going to be a mixture of different styles. It's going to have her mix, it's going to have our mix, and we're going to work out what all those details are, but it's going to be super cool, and you guys will not regret picking up the pieces. So definitely do that, because I really want you guys to enjoy this bonus piece drop. Got the ideas down, and we're going to be hashing out all of those pieces of artwork as we get closer, but you'll only be able to get the bonus piece if you've got all 7. So definitely make sure you get all 7 of them.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many people will be able to do that because in the end, if we want like I don't know 21 drops of the rare piece in the end, we would actually need like everyone having all the pieces.
Hmm.
So or each piece. So yeah, let's see. I mean, if in the end it could be very very rare if only like 2, 3, or 4 um, 4 persons manage to get all the pieces. I'm definitely trying to do it. So let's see what we can manage, and I'm looking forward to what Maria creates
Yeah.
for us. And yeah, this should be it for today. I mean, I see on the timer that we're already in the call for more than 1 hour, and that usually means it's time for my dinner.
That's right. You're what, 8 hours ahead of us, so you should definitely go get some food. But yeah, we'll get all 21 pieces will come to life. We can talk about what that looks like separately, but we'll definitely get all 21 pieces to life. But if you've got all 7, just understand they're going to come to you much much easier than to someone else. So we'll definitely get them to you, my friend.
No Twitter giveaway with the other ones.
No, we won't be giving anything away. I mean, that's not really our style. Well, at least not for people who are outside the community. I don't have any issue with giveaways and bonuses for people in the community, and that's what this is going to be for those who get the 7. So definitely, it's going to be a bonus for you guys. But yeah, we'll definitely make sure all 21 pieces come to life. It'll just look a little bit different, and I think I'm actually stoked for the bonus piece. To be honest with you, like I want to get like I want to jump the line and get to the bonus piece because and maybe a
Yeah,
second
man.
bonus piece. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will find out. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's it for today. So yeah, one last time talking before Bitcoin is at 70K on Friday next time when we speak. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, man. Enjoyed talking to you as always. Any final words?
Today, no, not really. Just looking forward to the artist incubator drop and looking forward to celebrate Bitcoin's all-time high. If it doesn't happen now, like it needs to happen now because we've talked about it so much. So we need that all-time high this week. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I guess we'll look super smart if it happens this week, right?
Yeah, man. Let's open the alpha channel
Yeah, we
next
can.
time, man.
Yeah, we'll open that. We'll pretend we know what we're talking about. How about that? All right, buddy. We'll go ahead and close it out, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a killer week, folks.